If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.
And we are back. I'm Chris Evan, the CEO of Survival Dispatch, joined tonight by my good friend Jeff MD, our in-house CIA operative, author extraordinaire, aka 007, by the way. Randy Nance was with us, but we appear to have lost him. I think maybe he's having some inclement weather that's knocked him out, but hopefully he'll be back for the broadcast. Tonight, we're going to jump right into a discussion on the illegal alien / Antifa / pro-Palestine or Palestinian riots currently happening in Los Angeles. We'll briefly touch on what happened this afternoon in Tampa, which was a completely different story because this is a law and order state. I'm not the biggest Ron DeSantis fan, Jeff, but overall he hasn't done a bad job. I don't like the fact that he aligned himself with what's his name, Paul Ryan. He was a horrible WEF clown, to put it mildly. So anyway, before we jump in on that, quick announcement, by the way, Jeff, I didn't have a chance to even let you know this. We hit 45,000 views on our Substack yesterday, which is a pretty big milestone. We didn't even start leaning into it until April the 18th. And a big reason for that is we've had a surge of people signing up for free accounts on our Substack. So if you go to survivaldispatchnews.com, sign up for free. You'll get our watch guide every Saturday. We're constantly getting emails from people. Oh, I didn't know that you published this content. You know, I'm not getting notifications. We even have people saying they can't mash the thumbs up button on YouTube. 432,000 subscribers on YouTube. And we get more views now on Substack with a fraction of that. I think we're about 25,000 people on Substack. But anyway, go to our Substack, sign up for free. Every Saturday, you'll get our watch guide. Has links to everything we publish for the week, and that way it doesn't matter if you don't get notifications, you'll have that as a reference for all of our content. And Jeff, I think that's actually was the biggest thing that made a difference just over the day yesterday, because we do the watch guide every Saturday now, and it seems to be gathering legs. So all right, let's jump into this. Hopefully Randy comes back here soon. I want to quickly bring something up, Jeff, that we briefly touched on before we went live. This is an email from Roman at Mira Safety, and they produce some amazing content, but they have amazing safety equipment. And I just want to briefly show our audience. This is the new Mira C21. Probably not that I'm a mask expert. That's Mike Sterling, but this is the nicest mask that we've been sent. And I was mentioning to Jeff when I opened, I thought, holy cow, was this like a kid's mask or something? It's so skinny, but it actually fits really well. And you don't even have to have an indentation below the viewport to get a good cheek weld on an SBR or AR pistol or carbine. So stay tuned for some testing on this unit here. I'll be wearing it in 100+ degree humid Florida weather, doing some training in it, and we'll see if I survive or not. Last time we did it, I almost died after about the 4th set. My wife was a little concerned. So sorry, to be honest, but let's get into some stuff that happened this afternoon here in Florida first, and then we'll drill into the brief that we've put together. So check this out. This is Tampa this afternoon. It's 2 hours ago. Mega Patriots are protesting the anti-ICE riots. And if you love Mexico, go back to Mexico. I think it's around the 24-second mark here, and I'll fast forward to it just to save us a bit of time. It's right. Yeah, let's call it right here.
If you love Mexico, go back to Mexico. If you love Mexico, go back to Mexico. If you love Mexico, go back to Mexico.
So
I'm with them.
I can't say I
No one's
disagree.
making you stay here.
Can't disagree with him at all. So I actually have a couple other ones, Jeff, that did not make it into the brief, but I think they're fairly important and we should share them. This one was breaking news just this afternoon. Leaks now coming out saying Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass interfered in LAPD operations yesterday and prevented police from responding to ICE agents' calls for assistance when they were overrun by violent leftist rioters. And I have no reason to believe this isn't the case. And for those people who haven't been following Karen Bass, she used to make frequent trips to Cuba back in the day when Fidel Castro was alive and in power. She's a lifelong communist, and I'm not surprised that this report would come out. Jeff, what are the chances, if this is indeed proven to be factual, what are the chances of Tom Homan arresting her, do you think?
Actually, probably pretty slim. It's one of those, it's a courtesy more than anything, I think, between law enforcement. They don't have to respond. And if she's ordering them not to respond, she's evil and she should be impeached. But I don't think it's something you can arrest somebody for.
I'm thinking that I can't remember what the statute is, but Tom Homan's brought it up multiple times that if you are essentially impeding ICE's ability to do their job, that there could be repercussions, much like the judge in Wisconsin who's been charged. She'll probably never sit on the bench ever again, thankfully. But again, I have a couple more that didn't make it into the brief, Jeff, and I want to play a portion of this one here because this is kind of infuriating with all the violence that's going on. We have Democrats here that are essentially telling their supporters to go and be violent and saying, you know, fight like hell. Are you ready to fight? We're going to run right over them. Some pretty explosive rhetoric. It's a 45-second video. I'll probably play most of it just because what this guy's saying. This is a Democrat politician. I never thought we would see this. Not in my lifetime.
And we move the agenda to support, and we're gonna fight like hell.
Sorry about that. Let me get back to the beginning.
And we move the agenda to support working families all over the country. And if somebody gets in our way, shame on them, because we're going to run right over them, aren't we? Shame! It's time to make your voices heard. Shame on us if we don't get out there and fight like hell every single day and make our voices heard. We've got to do that because we are united. We are right, and we're going to stand up, and we're going to fight like hell every single day. Are you ready to fight? Yeah. Are you ready to fight? Yeah. Are you ready?
So I'm going to stop it there, Jeff.
Well, they got those pre-printed free David Huerta posters out pretty quick.
Yeah, no kidding. What are your thoughts on a politician essentially inciting violence like this? I mean, what we've seen so far is far more violent than anything that happened on January the 6th. They're not even remotely similar. I personally think this is absolutely disgusting. When they say working families, they're talking illegal aliens who have no legal right to be here. And too many of them have committed heinous crimes against Americans. And I don't care what the crime rate is amongst any demographic. If you're not in the country legally and you rape and murder Americans, those are rapes and murders that should have never happened.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and these are politicians who are picking illegal aliens over U.S. citizens.
Exactly.
We're paying these idiots, not the illegal aliens. They don't pay the taxes. It's everybody else. And so people in California who work hard are paying for the privilege of having their elected officials take the side of the illegals over them.
Did you happen to catch over the weekend the Mexican president? She said that if the federal government of the United States tries to tax or impede the flow of money from Mexicans working here, sending it back to Mexico, that they'll mobilize against us. I mean, was that some sort of joke?
Invade us? They should stop remittances. I don't have a problem with that. What they need to do when they have these riots, they need to round up as many of these people as they can. And if they're illegal aliens, take them straight to the frickin' border. And if they're legal aliens, you charge them with a crime, convict them, yank their status, and kick them out too.
I can't say I disagree. So we have a fairly large email list that's been built for many, many years. And we've been slowly adding some of them to our Substack. And I got a nasty gram from somebody the other day ago that said something along the lines that we were Nazis. And, we should be, as Christians, we should be accepting of all of the migrants, et cetera, invaders is more like it. And I didn't respond to it. But the only reason I mention it is that there's a significant portion of our country who essentially believe in things that are nothing less than self-genocide, to be quite frank. I mean,
yeah,
we have to take some pretty serious measures. So speaking of serious measures, I want to say this is the last one that's not in the brief, then we'll get into the brief. But the President of the United States just called for the arrest of a sitting governor, and this is posted by Gavin Newsom. And J.D. Vance's response is, "Do your job. That's all we're asking." 47-second video. The audio is not great at the beginning. I may try and fast forward to get to the crux of this particular statement.
If you come and arrest him, should he do it? He's done a terrible job. Look, I like Gavin Newsom. He's a nice guy, but he's grossly incompetent. Everybody knows. All you have to do is look at the little railroad he's building. It's about 100 times over budget. We're putting a flagpole over there. Under budget. I always do under budget. What is your intel?
Oh, actually, I think the juicy part might be here.
Oh, are they people ISIS trying to deport, or are they professional agitators? The people that are causing the problem are professional agitators. They're insurrectionists. They're bad people. They should be in jail. Thank you.
So I don't think he was overly ignorant there. Again, a lot of it was hard to hear over the helicopter in the back. But what do you think again? So we talked Karen Bass. What about Gavin Newsom? We have a video of him saying to Tom Homan, "Come and arrest me."
Yeah, I saw that. And, if you'd have, to arrest people, you have to arrest them for illegal acts. And for people to do an illegal act, they actually have to do something. He doesn't do anything. So he knows he's safe because he hasn't done jack shit. He sits there and smiles and combs his hair. He hasn't done anything positive or negative. He hasn't done anything. It's, it's crime by inaction, if anything.
So just to play devil's advocate here, the argument is that he's impeding the ability of ICE to do their job, at which, again, there's a statute. I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head. Tom Homan quotes it frequently, but Tom Homan's basically saying, if you impede us,
right,
we're going to do this. So I would say that the argument on that side is that because Gavin Newsom is not helping things at all, that perhaps he's impeding. I don't know. I'm not an attorney.
Well, I don't think he's under any legal obligation to help. That's the problem.
Could be.
Just like if the federal government comes in and says, okay, we've decided AR-15s are illegal, and you local police, we want you to go around and collect all the guns. Local cops can go, screw you. Your law, you enforce it. And a lot of sheriffs have basically said that. So this is really kind of the same thing.
Yeah, possibly. Maybe somebody in the audience can pull it up. There's a Supreme Court ruling that essentially says that the cops are not duty bound to protect you and me, regardless of what the situation is. And I wonder if that maybe play into this as well. The good comment from Van 11 here as well, by the way. According to Glenn Beck, this is the start of a color revolution in this country, just like the left and the CIA did in Ukraine and the Arab Spring. And we've actually had a number of people behind the scenes that agree with you, Van. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, what I would like to see them do, though, is say, okay, you're not going to help. You're not going to help us. Guess what? We're not going to help you. We're going to pull funding. Billions upon billions upon billions of funding, not just for schools and stuff because of the trannies in women's sports, but they get a lot of money from the federal government for law enforcement, public safety, things like that. And just say, what are we giving you money for? If when we need you, you're not there. It's sort of like having a lawyer on retainer, and the first time you need him, he goes, "Yeah, no, I'm not going to do it." Well, quit paying him.
So Gavin Newsom actually responded to that scenario by saying that California will stop remitting federal taxes if Donald Trump stops funding any programs in California. And at that point in time, I can't remember who the attorney was, but I caught a blurb on it over the weekend where the attorney basically said, in that case, Gavin Newsom will be breaking the law and will be subject to being arrested at that point in time. And
he could only do that with state employees anyway, because if you work at Walmart, the state of California isn't sending your tax money to Washington, D.C. Walmart is. They're sending it into the Internal Revenue Service. So, they're responsible for collecting the payroll taxes and sending it into the government. Now, if he does it with federal employee or state employees and doesn't remit their income tax, well, then he is stealing U.S. government funds, because those people owe income tax like everybody else does. Just like if you work for Walmart and they take it out of your paycheck, but they don't give it to Uncle Sam, and Uncle Sam comes at you and says, "Hey, you haven't paid your income tax." You go, "Well, I gave it to Walmart and they didn't take it." They sat on it. So that's just theft. And then you could arrest him.
It'll be interesting to see where that goes. Jeff has a comment here. Jeff Taylor, Kamala Harris is instructing them to riot. She is. And so are other politicians, like the video that we showed. And we're not talking dog whistles. We're talking, just straight out saying, go riot in the streets. I mean, what's happening? We've got some pretty crazy videos of people throwing stuff off of bridges. And there's one officer who was hurt fairly bad. He was underneath the bridge out of his cruiser. And when he walked out from under the bridge, he got clobbered in the head with a cinder block and is injured quite badly. And we'll get to that. And Handy Prepper, thank you for the compliment. We appreciate it very much. We appreciate everybody who's in the Survival Dispatch News family. So next one up here, I just preface this by saying that, when I was jotting down my notes for the brief this morning, Jeff, we've gone beyond civil unrest, and this is like a full-scale assault on law enforcement and the rule of law itself. Like, these are people who've broken the law that are in our country illegally, and we got to get them out. And they don't deserve due process. There was no due process when they broke into our country, and now we've got all these people galvanized against American law enforcement. I have a really bad prediction, and I hope to God that I'm wrong, but I think that one of these protesters is going to do a Luigi and is going to kill a law enforcement officer, shoot them in broad daylight sort of thing. And all bets, I think, are off at that particular point in time. I don't know why, but when the National Guard got deployed this weekend, all I could think of was 4 dead in Ohio, and that this has the potential to go way more than what happened back then. So check this out. This was yesterday, and rioters are launching explosives at LAPD on horseback, scaring and potentially injuring the horses. Nick Sortor, he's got a ton of content on what's going on right now. These people are freaking sick. This is only 9 seconds. So I think we have some aerial footage of that. Yeah, we do. It's the next one up. This is even worse, though. Protester just set a trap for the horse-mounted Los Angeles police by trying to light them on fire with a line of gasoline poured in their path. He failed and got caught. Won't see him on the streets ever again. He got some street justice here. 48 seconds. I'll probably play the bulk of this video. There's no audio with this video, by the way. As you can tell, it's been taken from a drone or a chopper, one of the two. But here's this line of fires that was lit up. And I want to say that, yeah, this is the protester here, or the arsonist on the ground here. Well, and I would love to hear the audio of this encounter. I think actually at one point here that one of the horses even steps on him right there.
Right there. Good.
And there you get the Billy Club, well, boarding the Billy Club. That's pretty long baton there.
Well, it's just like if you shoot a police dog, that's assault on an officer. This is we think the same for the horse. And so he should be basically arrested for assaulting a police officer and thrown in prison, throw the key away.
Yeah. So the statement
and arson.
So when I said, this is beyond civil unrest, this is, essentially attack on law and order, law enforcement. This is just one of many examples. Throwing cinder blocks off of bridges would be another example of it as well, but pretty brutal. So check this one out, Jeff. And everything from here on is in the brief. So I'm not even sure how to pronounce her name properly. I think it's Eunices Hernandez, and she's a LA City Council member, and she urges all of the leftist and Mexican nationalists to escalate their violence in the insurrection against the federal government. I mean, this is pretty shameful behavior, and I don't know if this crosses the line legally or not. I'm not an attorney, but if it doesn't, it's got to be flirting with it darn close. It's only 18 seconds. I'll play the whole video.
They know how quickly we mobilize. That's why they're changing tactics, because community defense works and our resistance has slowed them down before. And if they're escalating their tactics, then so are we. When they show up, we got to show up even stronger.
So there's more to her speech than just that. But again, it seems like there's a lot of politicians at different levels in California jumping on this bandwagon. Just a question that popped into my mind, Jeff. How much of this do you think was pre-planned months ago when the powers that be realized that they were not going to be able to cheat enough to steal another election?
I think a lot of these things were pre-planned. They were just waiting for the right, the right ignition source, because they hit the streets and they immediately have pre-printed signs. And it's like, okay, you didn't, you're not sitting there with a machine in the back of your truck printing out signs. They've got these things stacked up, and some of them are, the frickin' communists. I mean, the socialists and stuff. They were just waiting, ready and waiting for an excuse to do this crap. And when they're like pummeling cops with those bricks and stones and things like that off the bridge, I would have been 100% okay if the cops had just wheeled out and just started shooting into that crowd. And they say, because that's assault with a deadly weapon. You have a right to defend yourself. They should have wasted about 5 or 6 of those guys and then watch the rest of them run. And then everybody would have screamed bloody murder. It's like, no, you're trying to kill a cop. He killed you first. Get over it.
So that's a really good point. I had a brief exchange with our friend Keith Graves earlier today, and he's trained law enforcement across the country, all levels, federal down to city PD. And I asked him, I said, do you know what the rights are for law enforcement officers when they are in a stand your ground state like Florida or Texas, for example? Are they afforded the same rights as the rest of us? And he said, absolutely not. He said, if they are on duty, they cannot claim stand your ground. And he said, that's across the board, which I suspected that was probably the case because we handcuff our law enforcement in so many ways. But it seems to me that I don't really care what your vocation is. If somebody's trying to kill you and the only way out of it is for you to use deadly force, I have a hard time believing that you shouldn't be allowed to do that. But that's just me. Moving on to the next one, speaking of law enforcement. So this is the Los Angeles police chief. And this is also from Nick Sortor. It was posted yesterday afternoon. Looking at the violence, and I think we may need to consider it, meaning working with the National Guard, because they had said, prior to that point in time, we're not going to cooperate. We're not going to work with the National Guard. We're not going to work with the feds in any capacity. So what's interesting here is you have a very, Democrat strong PD and chief rebuking Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass, who to this day, like meaning today, Monday, they're still trying to convince their constituents that everything's under control. There's no problem. It's kind of like Star Wars, just different, right? No, there's no problems. So 1-minute video. We'll listen to this just to get the chief's perspective. It's around halfway through where he basically says, yeah, we should be working with the National Guard.
Happened, and then the National Guard was federalized. So they're working for the U.S. Army, not for the California State National Guard.
Do we need them?
Do we need them? Well, looking at it tonight, this thing has gotten out of control. I think before I could answer that, I'd have to know more about what their capabilities are, what their role is intended to be able to make that determination. But we have great cops in Southern California here that work together all the time. So we have tremendous capability here. To say that we would go to that right away, I'd say we wouldn't have been there yet. Looking at the violence tonight, I think we got to make a reassessment.
So that's the crux of it. They're essentially saying, things have now escalated to the point that they're unable to handle it. Again, I'm not an attorney, and emotions get the better of me in these types of situations. But I want to think that the people promoting violence, the people who didn't take action when they should have taken action, that they're culpable on some level. And if it's not legally, then perhaps it's in, at the polls. Maybe that some of these people don't get reelected because of the positions they've taken. So somebody just mentioned George Soros, by the way. We have another story coming up, and it was in the brief, Jeff. I'm not sure if you caught it, but there's an NGO or a 501c3 that's gotten quite a bit of money through the federal government, maybe USAID. When we pull it up, we'll get more details. And you can't make this stuff up. Karen Bass sits on the board of that company that is providing cinder blocks and bricks to the rioters. And there's also, by the way, I don't know if you caught this or not, but CNN is trying the whole thing that these are mostly peaceful protests again. And they have reporters in the streets with fires raging behind them saying these are peaceful protests. I mean, I think we need a redefinition of what peaceful protest means in this day and age. And here's a great example. So from Libs of TikTok, Los Angeles is a war zone. Send in the troops. 18-second video. I want to say that it was either Gavin Newsom, I think, or could have been Karen Bass, I suppose, said something along the lines of, well, the people who are there, they're just being entertained by watching the police cars burn.
I saw this one.
Okay, I'm not sure what universe you're from when you say things like that, but 18 seconds. We'll play the whole video.
They complain about the air pollution.
So that last flame right there, that's no joke. I mean, I'm not a bomb expert like Mike Sterling is, but is it not entirely possible that one of those cars with that type of fire burning could potentially explode if they had a full tank of gas or not? I'm not an expert on munitions.
Well, those are I think those Waymos. Those are the electric batteries going up.
Well, then, so here's the next. And I used the wrong word. I know my small arms munitions, but I'm not a bomb guy. Are you familiar with the tests that are done on those batteries, the LifePole batteries? One of the tests that a lot of them have a hard time passing is called the nail test.
Oh yeah, where you hammer a nail into it.
So you can look at it in a controlled environment, and they have a battery and they have a robotic machine that essentially drives a nail into the batteries and they explode. Were you on the episode, I don't know, 6 months ago, where the guy was bringing in the rechargeable battery from his e-bike? I want to say it was in New York City, and it exploded in the elevator. And when they got it, yeah, there was nothing left of them, just a charred mess.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these batteries, yeah, these batteries have the capacity to do a tremendous amount of damage. I didn't realize those were the Waymos there. I thought they were cop cars, but
Oh, they're Waymos. They called in the Waymos for rides and then set them on fire. And there was also a video of, I think it was like 2 Teslas got in an accident in California, and both their batteries started going up, and they just basically had to cordon off the area, let them burn, and just and explosion after explosion, as another cell would breach and they would go up. Yeah, they're dangerous as hell.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I just want to give everybody a quick reminder. So Heaven's Report, that's my new podcast, starts tomorrow, 12 noon on Substack. It's only going to be on Substack this week on Tuesdays and I think Fridays. I'll have that firmed up soon, but it'll be 12 noon on Tuesdays for sure. And it's 1 hour of conservative news. And our Substack, just survivaldispatchnews.com, will get you to our Substack. And while you're there, like I said, sign up for a free account. That way you'll get our Saturday watch guide and you won't miss any of our videos that we produce and publish. So next one here it is. So did you know these bricks, bags of rocks, and cinder blocks are being stored in the back lot of the Contemporary Art Museum? And guess who just happens to be on the board there? Karen Bass. You can't make this up. And there's a short video here, 31 seconds.
Yeah, this whole corral of materials is a bag of rocks, a bundle of rocks, pallets, trash cans. Huh.
So I'm going to stop it there. It just shows more of the same old. But if we can trace where they came from back to, call it dirty money, like George Soros, is that actionable in your opinion, Jeff? Could you take legal action at that point in time?
Well, I would think if you're basically supplying weapons to rioters, yeah, I would think so. Aiding and abetting, it's like giving a gun to a criminal and he robs a store. Guess what? They can come after you for giving them the gun.
I mean, it seems to me it's premeditated, and they know what they're doing. It's not like they don't know what they're doing. I mean, they've taken the playbook from 2020 and they're doing it all over again. I don't know if you caught it. S2 actually posted a thing in our Signal chat that basically said it was a post of some stuff that the Antifa are sharing in their forums that essentially said that this could end up being bigger than 2020, the George Floyd riots. And if that's the case, well, man, we're on the precipice here and there's many billions of dollars of damage that's going to happen. So moving on to the next one here, another one from Nick Sorter. I'm telling you, he's been all over this one. LA Mayor Karen Bass slams Trump for deploying troops and insists she has everything under control. Meanwhile, the camera view next to her shows total anarchy happening live. Democrats lie to your faces. She even goes so far as justifying the riots and says people are upset because federal laws are being enforced and blocking freeways is protected by the First Amendment. I don't remember that that's the First Amendment, but what do I know? Minute and 27 seconds. I don't think we'll be able to make it through the whole thing because it's really hard to listen to her.
It's their First Amendment right. But people should also exercise that right peacefully. We do not want to play into the administration's hands. We're working with officials, we're organizing resources, but what we're seeing in Los Angeles is chaos that is provoked by the administration. When you raid Home Depot and workplaces, when you tear parents and children apart, and when you run armored caravans through our streets, you cause fear and you cause panic. And deploying federalized troops is a dangerous escalation, but we need to be real about this. This is about another agenda. It's not about public safety. There's clearly no plan, and there is clearly no policy. I want the people of Los Angeles to know that we stand with all Angelenos, no matter where you were born. The First Amendment right gives you the ability, again, to protest peacefully.
So I'm going to stop it there and ask you a question, Jeff. And I know we've touched on this before, but refresh my memory. Do you believe that the First Amendment applies to non-Americans? In other words, do you actually believe the U.S. Constitution applies to non-citizens?
I think it applies to legal residents because I don't think it should apply to illegal. Because if you're a legal resident, means we have issued you a visa. We said, please come here. you're a guest, and you got, and if you work, you got to pay taxes, and they can say, okay, good. And if you got kids, they can go to school. You're like a citizen, but not quite. You can't vote.
That's
But
true.
you're on the way that if you wanted to apply for citizenship down the road, you certainly could. These illegals are doing none of that. So, they should. It's like the difference between someone who's a guest in your home. You can ask them to leave, but you can't shoot them just because they're there. Whereas someone who breaks into your home in the middle of the night, yeah, you can pretty much shoot them.
So no surprise, by the way, I'm looking up here at the monitor that tracks what's going on YouTube, and they just censored JoJo. I went ahead and let the comment go through.
Did they censor?
JoJo. I'm assuming that it's a girl. She's got a handful of comments in there, but either way, I'm not surprised that CommieTube would be censoring people's comments in this particular topic. So moving on to the next one, here's just another example. And Wokeness says here, Los Angeles is occupied territory. It's only 17 seconds long, but again, this is insane. So we've been calling these, illegals who walked across our border during the illegitimate old Biden admin. If people are setting stuff on fire, waving flags from a foreign country, I think this pretty much counts as an invasion. And I think that from a legal perspective, the whole the act that Trump used from 1798, the illegal, what was it again? I can't remember the exact term of it, but essentially he used it to deport people. If this isn't the definition of an invasion, I'm not sure what is.
No, absolutely. I think they should round all these people up. Anyone who's flying a Mexican flag and involved in these riots, deport them. And if they're an American citizen, they're doing that, throw their asses in jail.
There's a couple of memes out there that are kind of funny that say, thank you for waving the flags of the country that you're from so we know where to send you.
So shit.
So anyway, moving on to the next one here. So this is a video here of the guy who was throwing rocks at California Highway Patrol. And I don't know if something he threw hit the cop in the head who got injured pretty badly. But either way, this is extremely dangerous stuff. So I want to say last month, and it wasn't related to protests. It was just a bunch of youngins misbehaving. Might have been Ohio, where they threw something off a bridge overpass, smashed the windshield. There was an elderly couple in the car. They lost control of the car, and both of them were killed as a result of it. I mean, this is really, really dangerous stuff when you start throwing projectiles off of bridges. So I don't know that there's much more to add to that. They just came for a better life, they said, calling all rioters. Only in blue state America can you burn down cities with the full support of the mayor and the governor. 7 seconds. I mean, I'm pretty confident we'll be able to identify people like this guy. The guy who, did you see the guy on the weekend pitching rocks at the cop cars as they were going by? Laura
on the top, the 10 most wanted list.
Yeah, Laura Loomer was able to take his shirt, tie it to a baseball team, and essentially identify him. And I don't think they've caught him yet. I've been watching closely for that, but that guy's going to go to jail for a long time. They will catch him. And that was absolutely attempted murder. So we shall see. Check this one out, Jeff. So this video is from 2025, and there's a reason that it says that. And I'll play it in a second. It's only 11 seconds long. So she posted, Libs of TikTok posted a video, and it was from 2020. And you want to talk about self-own? Actually, it was the real James Woods, then was reposted by Libs of TikTok. This video is from 2020. So that basically gave the other side of the argument the opportunity to say, yeah, like things have been falling apart for years under your reign.
Yeah.
And then she went ahead and posted this 11-second video here, which is 2025, is this weekend for that matter. So we'll have a quick look at this. 11 seconds. So that's escalated fairly high there. But this next one here, you're going to see a cop walk out, I believe, right here and take a rock to the head. And again, he's in serious condition. He's in an ICU. But
they should just shoot these people.
Yeah, it's bad. So Los Angeles ICE protesters trapped police officers under a bridge by throwing rocks and bricks down on them. When they try and get back to their vehicles, officer tries to get to his vehicle and gets hit with a rock and seriously injured. The rioters all cheer and cuss at them. 31 seconds. I'm going to play the whole video.
They didn't expect it.
Get down! Get down!
Oh! Oh, he got fucked. Oh!
Yeah.
Oh my God, he got fucked. Oh, he's fucked.
So I want to point out one thing there, and most of our audience is probably aware of this. Any of us who've been through like really, really serious wrecks with really serious damage, it doesn't hit you right away. It takes, I mean, I've been in some pretty horrendous wrecks. It's how I lost my vision in my left eye. And it takes a period of time for you to realize the gravity of the situation. And you're on an adrenaline then, and you can manage to get out of harm's way like he did there. And we've seen this before where somebody gets a head injury, the self-preservation instinct kicks in, they get off the X, and then you find out a couple hours later they're on death's door in an ICU. And that's what happened here. And I hope that cop is okay. I mean, I don't see any justification for this stuff of throwing, bricks and cinder blocks off of bridges. Pretty brutal. I purposely haven't played a whole bunch from Trump on this, not because, he didn't have stuff to say, but him and Gavin Newsom have been going back and forth on X. And I would encourage people to go ahead and read that. Tonight isn't so much on, the politics between Donald Trump and Gavin Newsom as much as it is that these are paid agitators. This is George Soros money. This is money from American taxpayers going to groups like the one that Karen Bass is part of. This is officials in California not protecting their citizens in pursuit of a very political reason, right? So let's have a quick listen to President Trump here. It's 57 seconds long. I don't think we need to play the whole thing. There's one particular statement that he makes here that I want everybody to hear, and then we'll carry on.
What's the bar for sending Marines to
The bar is what I think it is. I mean, if we see danger to our country and to our citizens, we'll be very, very strong in terms of law and order. It's about law and order. We're going to be watching it very closely. And when they spit at people, they spit. That's their new thing. They spit and worse. You know what they throw at them, right? And when that happens, I have a little statement. They say, they spit, we hit. And I told them, nobody's going to spit on our police officers. Nobody's going to spit on our military, which they do as a common thing. They get up to them this far away, and then they start spitting in their face. That happens, they get hit very hard.
So thoughts on that, Jeff? You spit, we hit.
Well, yeah, I mean, plus, look at all these people. They're probably the great unwashed. God knows what kind of diseases they have. So, yeah, sure. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, you're a little bit older than me, but we essentially grew up during the same time. And I want to, part of me believes that in some instances when we grew up in a different America, that sometimes the only justice that people like this got was meted out right there on the spot,
Oh, yeah.
and they didn't do it again because they paid a price. course.
It was called instant policing.
Yeah. So, and I'm not advocating for violence or anything like that. I'm just saying it was a different time. So this is pretty crazy. So it's from Insurrection Barbie, who we're probably going to have on Survival Dispatch News in the not too distant future. We don't know her, but we have a bunch of mutual acquaintances. I need everyone to watch this clip and then decide once and for all if they plan on joining Team Sane or saying what is on screen is a peaceful protest. 16-second video.
We are having an administration that's targeting peaceful protests, people that are there to protest. The president is sending the National Guard because he doesn't like the scenes. He doesn't like the scenes of people peacefully protesting.
Again, I think we need a new 2025 definition of peaceful protest, because that's not it. Or at least in their world, that's it. But for the rest of us, I can't get my head wrapped around. I think if a lot of these people, whether they're media personalities, Hollywood personalities, Democrats, Republicans, rhinos, they're all bad actors. I think they all have one thing in common, that they think if they tell the same lie enough times that it becomes factual, it becomes the truth. Kind of like the very fine hoax that they repeated for years and years, even though, Snopes of all people had said that that's not what happened. But this is the video with Newsom telling Tom Homan to go ahead and arrest them and to get your hands off these poor people. They're just trying to live their lives, paying their taxes. No, they're not paying taxes. They're illegals. They have no social security card. They're not paying taxes into the system. But what he's truly fighting for, and I've seen different numbers, maybe you can give me the right numbers, Jeff, but because all of these illegals were counted in the 2020 census as well as 2010 and previous, there's all kinds of seats that have gone to jurisdictions like California that should have gone to other states. And I don't know if this is the right number or not, but I want to say that 10 seats that went to California after the 2020 census should have gone to other states, should have gone to red states, essentially. Does that number sound reasonable?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the millions of illegal aliens they have in California because they subsidize them. Anything you subsidize, you get more of. And
true.
And so if every seat in Congress is, I don't know, represents, so we have 435, we have 330 million. So, 700,000 people, 800,000 people. So for every 700,000 illegals, that's a congressional seat. And how many illegals do they have? Well, they have millions. And so divide that by 750, 800,000, and that's how many congressional seats they have that they shouldn't have.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that. So this is 36 seconds. We'll go ahead and play the whole thing.
Get your hands off these poor people. They're just trying to live their lives, man. Trying to live their lives, paying their taxes. Been here 10 years. The fear, the horror. The hell is this guy? Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy. I don't give a damn. But I care about my community. I care about this community. The hell are they doing? These guys need to grow up. They need to stop. And we need to push back. And I'm sorry to be so clear, but that kind of bloviating is exhausting. So, Tom, arrest me. Let's go.
So I have a theory, Jeff. I think that all of the gases from the hairspray have fried his brain.
He's looking at, we went after Trump and arrested him, and he got to be president. The only way I can be president is if they arrest me too.
Kudos. That's rather unique.
It works. It's a game plan. It worked for him. Let's see if it works for me. I did the math. It's about 758,000 people per congressional seat. So probably a little different because some states only have one, and then depending on how many people they have in the state. So potentially, say around 8 million, 7 million illegals in Florida or California. That's 10 seats. And there was another number. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. I want to say that there was something like 500,000 names on the California voting rolls. And it was discovered last week that this 500,000 number had no social security number.
and these are people who actually voted, not just on the roll, I should say. And I mean, that's enough to clearly swing an election. And of course,
absolutely. Yeah. And the thing is, you got to look at the 750,000. That's how many people. You only need half of that to win that congressional district.
Yeah.
You know, if you have 400,000, people in a congressional district, you've got it.
Yeah, 100%. So next one up, this is the guy. So I'm sure y'all have seen the video of, one cop car after another. And there's a guy standing kind of behind a telephone post and he's chucking rocks at them as they go by. So this shirt that he's wearing is from a baseball team that Laura Logan was able to track down. And then even though you can't see his full face, there was enough visible there. Plus there's some pictures of him kind of from the profile when he was in his car driving away, and pretty sure that she's nailed who this guy is. I hope she gets the $50,000. That whether you like Laura Loomer or not, she's a pit bull, man, and she's got a sharp eye and she picks out a lot of stuff. So $50,000 reward for information leading to the arrest of this guy who was not just throwing rocks, but he was throwing bricks at them as well when they were driving by him, one after another. I'm pretty sure we're going to see this guy's mugshot spread all over before too long, probably by the end of this week. And simply based on the fact that the Moon brothers are friends of mine, friends of yours as well. So, so the Moon family are from Korea. The father was imprisoned by the communists. I don't know the details of how he got out of this concentration camp, essentially, and came to America, I believe in 1974. And so his oldest son, Justin, was born in Korea. His youngest son, Sean, was born here in America. And the father went on to found the Washington Times. And at one point in time, you could clearly say the Washington Times was the most conservative newspaper out there. And I have some really funny text message exchanges with Sean. They call him the AR-15 preacher. He's a pastor. He just went to Russia. He did some great videography there. He got kicked off of the WEF headquarters in Switzerland. He was barred entry to China because they knew who he was. But he actually sent me a text and he said, we need the rooftop Koreans back in LA. So obviously this picture's from the Rodney King riots in the early 90s.
Well, Mike Sterling posted something on Signal and it says, everybody rioting until the roof starts speaking Korean.
Yeah, exactly. So God bless the rooftop Koreans in Los Angeles. Hopefully they make a resurgence here. So anyway, I think the key takeaways from what's happening in Los Angeles is pretty clear. I wouldn't trust. I've seen some people say, well, you can't trust Democrats. You know what? You can't trust politicians, period, when they claim to have things under control, especially while their cities are burning like this, right? And I think the next step to that, though, is for people, and we preach this over and over again, follow what's going on X more so than anywhere else, because things happen way faster on X than they get out in the news. So, for example, if you have no choice but to work in the downtown core of a major city, you should be keeping your ear to the ground on X in case something, goes off. And in those cases, when something bad happens, the faster you get out of Dodge, the better off it is for you. So I would pay attention to X, take your situational awareness up to another level. And from a law and order perspective, I'd say regardless of what level the election is at, one of the things that I look for in a candidate before they get my vote is supporting law and order, supporting our police, supporting our military. And the exact opposite would be not coddling criminals. How many times, Jeff, do we see a criminal arrested, released, arrested, release, arrested, release, and their crimes continue to escalate? New York City is a great example. LA is a great example. Cook County is a great example. And the irony of that, I would say, Jeff, is that if we didn't have the Electoral College, LA County, Cook County, New York City would pick our president every 4 years, and you and I would have no say in that. Is there anything in general, like from your 10,000 foot view, on this situation that you can give to our viewers? Any take, Jeff?
Yeah, I would say, we talk about bug out bags and get home bags. Make sure you have one. If you live in a city or anywhere this might be happening, have one ready. Be prepared. Also, don't, think about multiple routes to get home. If your usual route ends up being in the middle of this kind of crap, you got to be able to, you need a plan B, a plan C, a plan D, a plan E. You need to know how to get the hell out of there. And defend yourself. I'm not advocating for violence here, but as a wise man once said, better to be tried by 12 than carried by 6. And if you've got your family with you, you've got to take care of your family first. Hell with these riders.
So I appreciate you bringing up the alternate ways to get home. So Keith Graves, our good friend at Christian Warrior Training, he said to me a couple of years ago, he said, they would be having an incident in the Bay Area and they would have a road closed and there would be people trying to get home from work and they'd say, well, can you please let me through? And Keith's, officers would say, no, we have this shut down because of whatever the situation is. And he said he lost count of how many times over a 30-year career he heard somebody say, but I don't know how to get home. I've been driving this same route for years, getting to and from home. So I would say not only should you have alternate routes, you should also know what happens if you have to jump on the Ankle Express and walk home. Average American lives 15 miles from their workplace. So having a get home bag is really important, but distance equals safety, right? So I think if there's some takeaways here for people, it comes back again to situational awareness. We have spoken ad nauseum on this particular topic. And, what I would say is I would steal this from our friend Tony Blauer, who's the preeminent global expert on sudden violence. So D123, D1 being detect danger ahead of time and avoid it. I mean, the best fight is the fight that doesn't happen, right? So if you could see bad things going down that direction, you should probably go in a different direction and avoid that. Number one. Number two, Tony likes to say that the bad guys only want one of three things: property, life, or what's the other one? Property, life, or body. And so he has this whole thing where he teaches people how to devalue themselves as a target. And then you've got D3, which is how do you defend yourself and get out of a bad situation? And he coined this term where he said you weaponize the flinch. And this was back in the 90s that he coined the term. And it basically means that you recognize when you're under attack that you use your reaction to that to somehow either defend yourself or get away from danger. And I'm oversimplifying. I would encourage people to go check out Tony Blauer's. His stuff is amazing. But I can tell you a funny story. And I've told the one about the gas station lady too many times, but the follow-up to that is he lives in LA. By the way, he texted me earlier to say all this stuff is not happening close to him, which is great. But he's in LA. It's rush hour. Somebody rear ends him and pushes him into the car in front. He gets out of his car. This gorilla jumps out of the car in front of him. His two buddies jump out the passenger side. Guy walks up, looks at his bumper where Tony's car got pushed into it, and he said, "I'm going to kick your ass." And Tony was like, whoa, time out. There's 3 reasons I can't fight you right now. And he interrupted the guy's OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, act. And the guy actually stopped to listen to what he had to say. And this is a guy who's a world-class fighter and trainer. He knocked the guy out with one punch. And the other 2 guys got in their car and off they went. And that's weaponizing the flinch and interrupting somebody's OODA loop, which is pretty brilliant stuff. And of course, you can train for this stuff all you want. Nothing ever unfolds that way, right? It's really a matter of you have to, weaponize the flinch or recognize when there's a problem. I mean, last comment on that, if you're in close quarters with somebody and they hit you, the worst thing you can do is start moving backwards, because if they have an implement like a bat, a pipe, even their fist, they can wind up and hit you. In that case, it's distance management, the exact opposite. You want to close the gap. Like if you've got somebody like this, it's really hard for them to get off, blows that have any type of major momentum behind them. But anyway, I digress on that. So we're at the 1 hour mark. We're going to obviously keep a close eye on this. I will be back tomorrow on the Substack. So not Survival Dispatch. So it's C, the letter C, Heaven, Heaven, just like upstairs. It's my name, Chris Heaven, cheaven.substack.com. There's absolutely nothing there right now because tomorrow is going to be the inaugural episode, and it's going to be 1 hour of conservative news. I put together essentially my own formula that I can use to gather news from multiple sources and put it into a nice condensed format. And the way it's going to go, it's going to be actually 55 minutes of news, and then 5 minutes I'm going to do a spotlight on something else. Could be gear, could be training, could be whatever. But the last 5 minutes will focus on something that you can sink your teeth into and improve your station. So that'll be 12 noon Eastern time tomorrow live. It'll be on that Substack, cheaven.substack.com. And I think I'm probably going to pre-record an episode on Fridays. And Jeff, maybe like we can sync up during the week, because all of my recent research, which goes against what it was a couple years ago, says that 6 p.m. Eastern on Fridays is a really, really good time to post a roundup for the news that week. So we're going to test that theory. I can't say that that's the case for sure or not, but we're going to test it. And speaking of Substack, go to survivaldispatchnews.com, sign up for the free account. You'll get our Saturday watch guide with links to everything that we've produced for the week. That also includes our learning videos from JJ Morris, Jason Sawyer, and some of the Survival Dispatch Academy stuff that I do. We have a power station video coming out Wednesday that's unbelievable. We're talking a middle of the road power station cost wise with entry level prices. I can't believe that we stumbled across such a great deal, but we did. And by the way, I want to thank the Forgotten One. We appreciate the tip. That's a big part of helping us to essentially do what we do. So John will be back tomorrow evening, another episode on his series in communism. I will be live on cheaven.substack.com at 12 noon Eastern tomorrow. I want to thank everybody out there who supports Survival Dispatch News and Survival Dispatch, especially our Guardian subscribers and our vendors who sponsor the show. You're the reason that, we can put in the work to continually bring you the truth. But that's it for tonight. This is Chris Evans signing off. God bless America.
God bless and good night.
For years, they've been telling us.
The President of the United States is racist.
These comments are disgraceful and disgusting and are racist.
Donald Trump is a racist. Yes, absolutely. I can say that now.
He has been racist.
Abraham Lincoln here is one of the most racist presidents we've had in modern history.
What if he never was a racist?
Is Trump a racist?
I've talked to a number of black entrepreneurs who were trying to get financing. They couldn't. Somebody told them to go check with Donald Trump.
What a beautiful person you are.
He gave them a term loan. They independently relate this tale that when they saw him, he said, "This is what you supposed to pay me? This our agreement?" And yeah. And then tore the check up, shook their hands, and congratulations. Now run your business.
What if Donald Trump wasn't the man they told you he was?
There's a lot to be said for Donald Trump. Yeah, there's a lot, He's a good guy. He is really a good guy. He's not a racist. He's not.
Growing up in the Deep South, I've seen racism up close. I know what it is, and it isn't Donald Trump.
Racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK.
So here now is just a sampling of the long history of misogyny we have seen over the years from Donald Trump.
Who is a sexist? And now a sweeping report about the way he treats women.
He's been sexist.
What if he was never a sexist?
I've known my father, obviously, my whole life, and he has total respect for women.
A woman in the audience asked Trump if he'd hire veterans at that hotel. Here's how he responded.
Do you mind if I do a job interview right now? We need good people. How are you?
Yes. Mr. Trump, what we just witnessed here was pretty remarkable. I mean, this is a complete stranger who just came up and you offered her a job. What inside your gut gave you the feeling that
I felt good about her? I tell you what, I looked at her. I said, I have gut instinct, okay? Look at that with the tears. How nice. She just seemed like a good person to me.
He's a race baiting.
He's a pig.
Xenophobic.
A mutt.
Religious bigot.
he appeared to mock a reporter with a disability.
What if he wasn't a bigot at all? What if he was actually warm and compassionate?
I'm President Donald Trump for you.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, hold on 1 minute.
All right, sounds good.
Can I have a
Holy Christ, what do I get to...
Alright, Jay.
Hey.
Handsome to me. I just saw a picture of you.
No, you're giving me kind honors.
Hey, Jeff. A lot of good things are happening, too. Don't kid yourself. A lot of good things are happening in terms of the medical stuff. You keep that fight going. We both fight, okay? You keep that going, okay?
I will do my end.
In a world where illusions can deceive, discernment becomes our lantern, guiding us to uncover the untold truth that may lie obscured by the hands of perception.